Hello everybody, it's Glass Half Dead here, and today I'm going to tell you how to be a better player. Specifically, kill team player, because, However, the rules I'm about to give you, oh man, I shouldn't call them rules. The things I'm about to say aren't specific to kill team. You can do them with anything, but of course any examples I give are going to be about kill team. Now, let's dive in. Some of these are going to sound super generic and obvious, but I am going to go into a little bit more depth. For example, my very first point is going to effectively boil down to just play more games, but I'm going to tell you how, and I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to tell you what you're actually doing to improve when you are playing those games. Let's do this. The other thing to remember here is that this video isn't just for people that want to, come first in a tournament. The tips I'm about to give you will help you do that, but these aren't specifically, how to do tournament play. These are just how to become a better player, which will logically lead to becoming, having a higher chance of placing in a tournament. Okay, anyway, let's discuss. Okay, so I kind of alluded, aka said earlier, the best way to become a better player is to play more games. Yep. However, as you may notice, going on wherever I've placed myself in the background, you may notice me playing against myself. That's right, everyone. I'm about to teach you the basics of Sadhammer. That's just what it's called. I didn't make it up. Somebody else did. When you play Sadhammer, you're playing against yourself. Don't worry, my friends. It's perfectly normal to play with yourself. We all know that's true. Let's just move on. I didn't actually mean to make it sound like that. My bad. What I meant to say was all of the people that I've interviewed in the past have admitted to practicing. There you go. Practicing against themselves. But I'm about to tell you why it's so effective. Apart from the incredibly obvious thing. Here's the tip. Okay, let's just get into it. Firstly, you don't need to play against anybody else, and you can play it anywhere. Obvious. But let me tell you the big thing. You only need to play, and obviously I'm talking about kill team very, very specifically here. You only need to play 2 rounds. You don't need to finish a game. You don't need to go 4 rounds. Yeah. Now, why is that? Good question. Because in the game of kill team, movement is king. You see, when you're trying to win a game, dice happens, and there's nothing you can do. Your entire purpose of building a list, and list building comes later in this list, let me assure you, is to try and minimize how reliant you are on dice. And the only thing you truly have control over in your list in a game is your movement. No matter what happens, you know that your guys can move X, and they could probably advance a bit, obviously. But movement is king in kill team. Ask any of the top players, any players that win tournaments, they will agree that you have to know how to move. Whether that is knowing whether you want to advance your guys to the end of an objective so that you are actively blocking an enemy from charging onto you, or you actually want to be on the far side of an objective so that they have a slightly longer charge, and that's going to give you the better chance. It might only just be over 50%, but that's still a better chance than being on the far side, hoping that they fail charges. Basic things. And if you do play a bit of Sadhammer, I think you will find very quickly just how true the 2-round rule is. I will point out I've made this, and this is all me saying this. I have never heard anybody else say you only need to play 2 rounds. I might be talking bollocks. If I am, please let me know. But play 2 rounds. By the end of the 2nd round, you will realise the mistakes you have made. You will realise the good things that you have done, and you probably don't really need to play the rest of the game out. Now, in tournaments, turns 3 and 4 do matter, obviously. But if you set yourself up to have a really solid start, and the enemy, the opponent, I probably shouldn't call them an enemy, that sounds a bit aggressive, hasn't played as much Sadhammer as you, doesn't quite know their movement as well as you do, you're going to win. Movement is king. Play against yourself. You only need to play 2 rounds to know what you've done right and wrong, because don't forget, the actual outcome of your Sadhammer is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if you win or lose against yourself. You just need to know that you have made the best moves possible. And to take it a step further, I'm not saying do this, but I'm saying movement is king to the point that you don't actually have to play out any combat if you're playing Sadhammer. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't. You should. Because you need to teach yourself, oh, okay, this is what happens when I have made that move. But you are playing these games to learn movement. Make no mistake. Okay, tip number 2. And this is going to surprise some, maybe. Make sure that you play elite teams. This is super kill team focused. I don't know what I was talking about in the beginning. Okay, why do you need to play elite kill teams or factions? So, they're harder to play. There you go. Make sure you know how to play them. If you start hitting 50-50 win rates with elite teams and you're practicing for tournaments and you then swap to a team that isn't or that can run a horde, you're going to win. Yeah, that's just how the game works. If you can beat people with Deathwatch or Grey Knights or Harlequins are a bit weird due to movement shenanigans, you are going to be amazing when you finally up your game and take a more competitive faction like, Tyranids or whatever. A faction that can run more than 6 models. Now this one is going to be, these next 2 are a little bit odd. So alongside playing elite teams, make sure you know how those elite teams work, definitely. Play without secondaries. Okay. Now again, I know a lot of people are going to say, but Glass, I'm practicing for a tournament. Surely learning secondaries is part of... That's the next one. Why play without secondaries? So for exactly the same reason that playing elite teams is good, games are easier to win when you have secondary objectives. The purpose here with elite teams and no secondaries is you're just trying to handicap yourself while still playing a normal game of kill team. That's it, really. There you go. It's not having a secondary to score, is handicapping an elite team. Okay, now we get to the next one. Know all of the secondaries for the tournament pack that you are playing off by heart. I think that one's incredibly obvious, isn't it? I don't need to explain it, do I? Okay, good. In fact, you know what? I've just inspired myself. I am going to do a secondary objectives breakdown. Good thinking, you. Thanks for that. I sensed it. I sensed you asking me for that. I will do that for you. Now you don't have to know the secondaries off by heart. You could check out my video, which I will make someday. Maybe. I don't think anyone needs to be told why this is a thing. It saves on mustering time, which is good because then you get more play time. And also, you need to know when to take each objective, depending on who you're facing, the team you're running. Obviously, that's the main factor. The faction you are running, and the map you're playing on. List building. I suppose it should be called roster building, shouldn't it? Yeah, roster building. I think this one's kind of obvious, right? So, you can take any faction in the game. Any of the top. You can take Tau, Tyranids, Azuriani, whoever, whatever, Drakari, any faction that people will say, this faction is the best faction, and you can lose with them. Because you don't have the things you need, because you took an army that has all the tools that it needs to win games, and you forgot to fill your fucking toolbox. Okay? How rude of me. I apologise. There was no need for cursing there. But don't forget your tools, is what I'm saying. A shoddy workman blames his tools, and a workman that didn't bring his tools probably blames his tools for not bringing them. You know what? I'm going to fix this joke in the edit. Screw it. List builder, you need to know how to build lists. As I just said, you can, with bad list building, demolish a top tier team, but you can also raise a bottom tier team up to the top. Obviously, if you have the skills to go along with it, but 100%, every team in this game has a chance. How you build your roster is going to define how well you're going to do in tournaments. Finally, be realistic. Now, this is one for the non-tournament players, for the more casual players. If you made it this far, I probably should have put this as the first thing, shouldn't I? My bad. What do I mean when I say be realistic? What I mean is, very simply, know when you are playing Grey Knights and facing Plasma Spam. When you are literally anyone and facing Tau. Know when you are playing against your counter list. Don't worry if you lose to your counter list. You're kind of supposed to. It's a great way to learn how to play in a losing situation, and you should try it a few times just to see how horrifying it is. But don't be disheartened. Just know that counter lists do exist. Anyway, everybody, this has been Glass Half Dead with 6 tips on how to become a better player. Thanks very much for watching. I hope these have helped. Do you have any additional tips that you think I've missed off of my very hastily scribbled out list of things that would help people? If so, I'd love to know them down below. And if you do have any crackers, much like my idea of knowing secondaries and how to build lists, then I might actually make a separate video explaining how to do that kind of thing. I'd love to hear it from you. Anyway, this has been Glass Half Dead. I hope you've had a great day, and I hope you continue to have a great day. Goodbye. So, this is not right.